a terrible thing, lockdown, but it gave me a lot of benefits. It gave me time to think about other things. I wouldn't have started directing if it wasn't for lockdown. I wouldn't have started working with young people. So I was actually sitting in my garden on my birthday when somebody said, "Aren't you supposed to be going for an interview today?" And I said, "Oh, it's for an American movie." And somebody said, "Well, it's a ticket in the lottery. You might as well go along." And I said, "Well, I've had a bottle of wine now." She said, "I think it's for a pirate, isn't it? It doesn't really matter how pissed you are." And I got offered the role the next day. Well, the big standout thing for me was actually radio. It was being able to recreate the lost Tony Hancock episodes on the radio. That's been my favorite job ever. Try explaining that to an American. Some students got in touch with me and said, "We're making this short film. We'd love to have you in it. We know you probably won't." And I thought, well, great, I'll do it. That excitement is still there. The thing about voice work is you don't have anything but your voice. How you show your energy with nothing other than your voice. So it's like the ultimate distillation of who you are as an actor, really.
Hello and welcome to the Tamp Podcast. Many of you will recognize today's guest. He has worked alongside some of the biggest names in film and theatre, and most famously played the role of Joshua Gibbs, the loyal first mate from Pirates of the Caribbean. His career stretches far beyond that, with standout roles in Downton Abbey, Doctor Who, Turn, Washington Spies, and decades of acclaimed stage and voice work. He is also a writer, having written several episodes of Minder, as well as Boone and Lockstock, and he also finds the time to teach. Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the Tamp Podcast.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Was that more or less correct?
Completely correct, yes.
Thanks so much for coming. It's really an honor to have you on. So I know you've been on a few podcasts in the past. One thing that we try to differentiate a little bit with this one is we like kind of personal journeys.
Okay.
So I'd like to ask you to tell me way back about who was Kevin before acting.
I'm not so sure there was a Kevin before acting, really. When I was I'd say about 7 years old, I didn't have a very good attention span at school. And I remember in a maths class, which I was famously bad at, and still am, by the way, the teacher writing a weird sentence on the blackboard and then wiping it off. I thought she was having a stroke or something. And she then turned around and said, "Now, class, can anybody tell me what I just wrote on the blackboard?" And because I was paying no attention to the maths, I said, "Yes, you wrote, 'My sunbeams are dancing in the meadow below where daisies and tulips and buttercups grow.'" She said, "Very good, you've got the lead in the school play." So for me, acting was a reward for a lack of attention, really. And then when my mother came to see it, she thought that I was very good as in the Harvest Festival play, and bought me a Mars bar and a Beano. So I thought, well, this is a great way to earn stuff by acting. And in fact, many years later, I told this story to the publicity people at the Globe Theatre when I was playing King Lear, and I found on my dressing room table a Mars bar and a Beano on the first night, which was very sweet.
Well, but you say you struggled with attention, but if you could memorize the whole sentence, clearly you have an ability for memory for.
Oh, I do have an ability for memory. It's a lack of attention is that I had then. And of course, then when I was about 16, I didn't come from a family that really had any money. So I really wanted to go to the National Youth Theatre in London, but they couldn't afford to send me, my mum and dad. So I was very lucky that year, the Birmingham Youth Theatre started. And I went along to that. And in a way, that was the start of my love of acting and the process of starting something and then ending up on the stage with people enjoying it and stuff. And I was then lucky enough to be spotted by the director of the Birmingham Rep. So I went and did plays at the Birmingham Repertory Theatre. At that point, Because I was doing the plays, I asked at school if I could not do 3 A-levels, but do 2 A-levels. And the headmaster, who was a rather stuck-up chap, as I remember, said, "Oh, this is just a passing phase," he says. "No, you'd either do 3 or leave." So I went, "All right, ta-da." And I left. And the director of the Birmingham Rep was so annoyed that I'd left school and that he was putting another unemployed young actor on the streets. He said, "I'll keep you till you get into drama school." And that's
And the drama school was
the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. But that was a very interesting year for me because he promised to keep me on, and there weren't any other 16-year-olds. I played girls, I played old men. I got to play all sorts of character actors, which stands me in good stead for the character actor I am today.
Do you remember your very first professional job?
Yes, I played Ptolemy, the young emperor in Caesar and Cleopatra by George Bernard Shaw.
And
that was the one they got me in for at the Birmingham Rep.
Uh-huh.
But then I was lucky enough that a very famous young actor of the time was going to play Jim Hawkins in Treasure Island. And he got a film or something and backed out. And the director was thinking, what am I going to do? And then somebody said to him, well, there is a 16-year-old in the company. So the next thing I knew, I was playing Jim Hawkins in Treasure Island.
Wow. So
my first time at sea.
Looking back at those early years, what were the biggest challenges you faced as a young actor?
It was such a whirlwind of doing something that I liked that I don't really see any challenges, really. The one challenge I did have is that I got into a lot of trouble for not having a sense of punctuality, which I've come across a lot in later years in other actors. So I'm definitely of the it's better to be 10 minutes early than 1 minute late school now.
And why is it? Why are some people have reputation for being really late?
Yeah.
What is it? Is it just a different body clock, a different mentality?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I've worked with a number. It's usually only the stars, and I do, now that I teach more, I insist upon my students being there on time because they're just wasting everybody else's time if they're not.
But even then, it doesn't make sense to me why a star would do that. Because, I mean, you've got a whole team of professional people, you got camera people, you got whole crews.
Entitlement, perhaps.
Guess it could happen to us.
Could happen to all of us, yeah. I think it's too late for me to become entitled, so I'll keep turning up on time if I may.
Punctuality is important for me.
Yeah.
In all aspects of life.
Yeah.
Here, for example, with the shop, it's fundamental in terms of...
absolutely, yeah. You can't be turning up here at 7:35 and you're not open.
Exactly. So, obviously, I want to talk a bit about Pirates of the Caribbean, but before I get into that, this is really getting me going, because I found out today, doing a little bit more research on you, that I think, I mean, only English people will get this, but what makes you a real superstar is I only just found out you were in Rab C. Nesbitt.
Oh, yes.
And then in Bottom.
And Bottom, yeah.
These are like legendary.
They're iconic, aren't they? And it's very interesting that something particularly like Bottom, people will still quote my most famous line from it.
I watched it on YouTube. You can tell us. Can we hear it?
Yeah. It's I can't remember what the lead-in was from Aid, but he says something like, "Do you want to try some of this or something?" Because I run this sex shop, and I had to say to him, "No, sir, I'd rather have a pineapple inserted violently into my rectum." I told this at the Tennessee Comic-Con I was just at, and I heard people going around quoting it because I don't think I don't think they use the word rectum very much.
We don't use it that much here, to be
honest. No, that's true. That's what makes it funny, though.
I watched the clip today because I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't remember the episode. I do remember watching it because when I was growing up, that was like...
Oh, yeah.
It
was episode number 1, I think.
That was. Yeah. And then Rab C. Nesbitt, well, I didn't manage to find any information on that. So what did you do in that?
I played this sort of crooked Tory MP who claimed that, people shouldn't be claiming benefits and I could live a life like that and be great. So an experiment happens where me and my wife goes off and lives with Nesbitt, and I go and live with Elaine C. Smith, who played his wife. It's a very funny episode, actually. And my favorite line in that was she said something, Elaine C. Smith said to say something to me like, well, you don't really want to be with me. And I had to say, on the contrary, my dear, I've got a stiffy. Which got quoted at me a few times afterward.
You see, these are TV shows which, I mean, they'd never be made today, would they?
No, they wouldn't. No.
And
it's sort of interesting, really. I sort of watch this whole what they call woke. I mean, I think woke is good. It means being caring and nice to people. But the idea that if you don't like something, you don't think anybody else should, I find slightly disturbing nowadays. I saw somebody write something brilliant on the internet the other day. They were going about this program they hated on television because they felt that it was offensive. And somebody just wrote, probably somewhere on the side of your television, there is an off switch. Use it.
I was just about to say, why were they watching it?
Yeah, why are you watching it? Why are you watching some... People like to get wound up, I think, about things.
Yeah, they do. They really, really do. But I wonder because, Bottom and Ramsey Nesbitt, there were the things that when I was at school, if we looked forward to watching, our parents didn't really want us to watch it, but it was that thing that we wanted to, we looked forward to.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what do kids have like that today on TV? Do they have the equivalent?
Well, but I don't think people watch television like that anymore, do they? An interesting thing I was talking to somebody else about yesterday was that I've got into directing a lot recently, and I've directed about 12 short films. I'm exploring a couple of features that I'd like to try to make. One of the interesting things I learned recently that perhaps, if this is not too rude, due to Generation Z's or Z or whatever they call themselves, a lack of attention span, more and more of the streamers are setting up channels that only show short films. So there is a chance now for us to maybe monetize a little bit short filmmaking. It all started for me really during lockdown, 2021. I thought, well, we're not going to be working together for a while. I had a friend I used to work with, and we said, let's make a film together. Let's distance, mask, and make a movie, And we did, and it did very well. It's called Lipstick, sort of a little horror film. And so I started to get really interested in young filmmakers and things like that. And short films is a great way to get into, learning, what to do with the camera, really,
Practicing
for
your
young
craft.
people. Yeah, particularly with young people who haven't been watching people do it for 50 years like I had. So it's a good thing.
I'm going to jump straight into Pirates of the Caribbean here.
Okay.
I know I've heard this before because I've done the research. I don't know if people listening to this have, but can you tell us how the role landed upon you?
Yes, I had recently jumped off a bus on the way to an interview for the film Spider-Man, going, I'm not going up for any more American films. I never get them. And anyway, this goblin character, it'll end up with William Dafoe or somebody. I was exactly right. It was William Dafoe. So I was actually sitting in my garden on my birthday, having a few glasses of wine, when somebody said, aren't you supposed to be going for an interview today? And I said, it's for an American movie. I never get them. I'm not going to bother to go. And somebody said, well, it's a ticket in the lottery. You might as well go along. And I said, well, I've had a bottle of wine now. She said, I think it's for a pirate, isn't it? It doesn't really matter how pissed you are. So she drove me to the interview, and the director, Gore Verbinski, had left the instructions. There's no script for him. Get him to tell a story, because he knew that the character was a storyteller. So I started talking about various piratey type things, and I got offered the role the next day. So I'm really glad that girl made me go and go on audition.
And the wine beforehand helped you land it.
Probably, yeah. The The slight slurring.
And I'm curious, how did you know what character to present? Because you obviously, I mean, let me ask it this way. How much of Gibbs is you and how much is the script?
Well, it's an interesting question, really. I think back, I had a lot of influences on Gibbs. I'm a great fan of the old comedian Tony Hancock, who used to do an impression of Robert Newton, who played Long John Silver in the 1950s version of Treasure Island. So the Treasure Island seems to be a thing that comes up in my life all the time. So there was I thought, well, a little bit of that. And then also my dad had an Irish accent and my mum had a Bristol accent. And those were the two main ports for real piracy back in the day. So if I thought if I have a little bit of my dad's Irish and a little bit of my mum's Bristolian, I might get somewhere, with it. And I realized that what I was doing was a bit of a sort of a pirate cliche. But I thought if any of the parts should be a pirate cliche, it should be Mr. Gibbs, Couple of funny stories about that. I did the very first scene. Oh, let me tell you about the first scene. When I'm playing I play the Navy man on the boat. It says, "Quiet, Missy. Cursed pirates sail these waters." Well, that wasn't supposed to be me. What happens is they take the leads along to do a read through. They haven't yet cast the young people, so they spread the other parts around and say, "Would you read this?" And then when the writer saw me do that part at the beginning of the very, very superstitious naval man, he said, "Wouldn't it be interesting if that was you?" And he was so scared of pirates, the only way to stop being scared of them was to become one. So I said, "That's great. I'm all for it." It led to a couple of little problems because when we found this out, I started to do read the part. And Jeffrey Rush said to me, he said, that's the voice I was going to do when you were going to speak after me. And I said, well, we'll just ask them not to get us to speak near each other. Somebody must speak in between us. So we said, well, what shall I say to people if they notice that we've got roughly the same accent? I said, well, I always tell people that my dad's from Dublin and my mum's from Bristol. So why don't you tell them your dad's from Bristol and your mum's from Dublin, and it's a completely different accent.
Tell me, at what point did you realize, or did you have any sense of what a global phenomenon it would become?
I'll tell you that, yes, I can tell you exactly when. When I did the deal for the film, it's quite common for them to say, if the film makes a certain amount of money, we will give you some more money. And my agent told me this and said, but he said, I wouldn't hold your breath. He said, there's probably been 2 films in the history of film that have made like $1 billion in a couple of weeks. So I wouldn't expect to see that money. I got it the week after it opened.
Wow.
And I thought, blimey, a lot of people have been to see this film. So that's really when I knew. And of course, they instantly picked up on the second film. And within a matter of months, we were on set making the second one.
But it is the characters that makes it, because I don't watch many films as much as I used to. But it's very rare that you feel so endeared to the characters. I can't think of many films just from memory where you really feel that. I think the ideal word is endeared with the characters.
Yeah, it's an extraordinary experience for me because I was, a successful and working character actor in England. And this opportunity came to me. And one of the reasons why I love doing conventions, for instance, particularly in the States, is the amount of young people, by young people, I mean people between the age of 20 and 40, who come up to me and are sort of a bit awestruck to see me and say what a large part of their childhood I was. And that's an extraordinary thing to happen to a man who, what was I, 47 then, when I did the first
what
film.
about the other 30 years?
So it's absolutely an extraordinary thing to happen to somebody, really.
But a nice thing to happen.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And very rare. I mean, you can count on one hand the amount of franchises that have that global impact.
Absolutely. Working alongside Johnny Depp and Jeffrey Rush, what was the atmosphere on set like?
It was terrific. They were all great guys to work with. In fact, I must tell you another funny story about Jeffrey. After we'd filmed the second film, when egos might have gone a bit crazy, they didn't. I went up to Jeffrey and I said, isn't it great, Jeffrey? Usually on a film, there's always an asshole. And there isn't on this one. And he looked me up and down and went, you think?
But I'm guessing that joyous energy on set had an effect on the characters we see on film.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the things I always talk to people about, when I meet them who were in the films with me, was that the whole temperature and feeling of the films was set by the fact in 2002, when we filmed it, we went out on a ship. And if we wanted to split a ship in half, we split a ship in half. Towards the last number 4 and 5, as the Marvel franchise had rather taken over, we found ourselves in a lot of green screen with people showing us photographs of what it would look like. Now, we are paid for our imagination, but, we never set our foot on water on the 5th film. They had a load of, those big tanker things that they take off boats and then put on lorries and they go off. We had a big surrounding of those all painted green. They recreated the top of each ship and put them on gimbals, and it does take a lot of the fun away from it, but we tried to retain the energy that really filming something gave us in the first 3 films.
It's interesting how that does have an impact, because actually one of the things I was talking about with Aisling about her film Maudie and the effect of not having a set. And she said how real that made the actors feel in the environment they were in, which in turn has an effect of what we see on camera.
Absolutely, yes, I think so. Also, this whole thing about using SFX or green screen and whatever, I remember very much enjoying the first Iron Man film. It was great. I know for a fact that because places like Marvel and Disney are run essentially by people who are trying to save them money, that they very often go for the cheapest bid as far as the SFX is concerned. And I noticed in one of the Avengers films, when they were all fighting and they were all cartoon characters rather than the real actors. And I thought, this has just lost all its energy for me now. It's like a cheap cartoon film.
Well, personally, I struggle to watch a lot of Marvel and that category of film for exactly that reason. I feel like you can watch 1, you can watch 2, and then it's all kind of very much just different effects.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I find it difficult to sit through and watch a whole film. I'm much more led by, I want to say it, that's going to sound horrible what I was going to say, but maybe use character acting. I don't know.
No, I agree.
I don't know how. I don't know how to phrase what I'm trying to say, but I'm much more captivated by 2 actors in a room having a dialogue.
Yeah.
Than I am by crazy CGI and explosions.
Well, no, exactly, and of course, over the course of my 53 years as an actor, things have changed so much. We went from it all being studio-based, multi-camera, then television became very filmic in the 80s. But film itself, so few of the films that are released in the cinema now are character-based stories. They've all got to have sort of a genre attached to them. I don't mind that. I like genre. I like to shoot direct science fiction and horror myself. But so a lot of it moved to the streaming, and now the streamers, I think they have some financial worries. I think they've screwed themselves a little by, there was a move a couple of years ago to say, well, you can't have everybody in the house watching Netflix on the same money. Everyone's got to pay. So a lot of people just went, I'm not having it anymore. So the financing of film has become very strange. And I know that because trying to make a feature film myself at the moment, I know nothing about that sort of thing, but the hoops that people have to go through and the promises that they have to make to try to raise the money is unbelievable.
I can imagine. It's kind of it just doesn't stop evolving. The whole industry, how we watch films, what we're choosing to watch. Someone told me that Netflix recently did a study where they now want to produce films and TV series, bearing in mind that anyone watching will be holding a phone in their hands and not focusing fully on the film. And that's actually how they're building their business model now. I don't know if that's correct or not, but it makes sense.
No, it
and
does,
I've caught myself doing it a lot of the time. I'm watching that.
No, I know.
I mean,
I actually, when I was over in the States, I don't often go to the cinema very much, apart from Chiswick Cinema here. And I went to see The Roses, which is a wonderful film. And the amount of times I look around and you just see a little light on a face like this. And you think, well, A, why have you bothered paying to see the film? And B, how rude. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's weird. People's attention spans have been screwed, really.
I think it's affected mine as well. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, I have arthritis in my thumbs, and I think it's from going like this on my iPad so much. No, I'm a sucker for it too. The awful thing about owning an iPad, of course, is that after I've finished here, I will be going to finish reading a script, and then I will be going and listening to some French words I have to speak in a French film I'm doing. And then I will be looking at my schedule for the next week, and they're all on that same screen. So my entire life comes from this thing. In fact, I thought I'd lost it while I was away, and I was genuinely shaking. I thought, I can't move forward. I don't know what my schedule is. I don't know what my lines are for my next thing. Because everything's there, you know.
Going back to Gibbs briefly, his character evolved across the films. How much of his character is Kevin?
There's a lot of Kevin the actor in it, I think. I don't personally me. But what I enjoyed more and more as I got into the character, because I don't think he was necessarily a character that they were going to bring back. But I think there's something about how some people say, why were you in all 5 films? And I say, because if I wasn't, Jack Sparrow wouldn't know what the hell was going on. So I did enjoy the mixture of him being, when he lost it, he could fight like the best of them, but that he's quite a soft sort of character as well. And I enjoyed those mixes, you know, I'm not so sure I like playing parts when you can go, well, you know, he's a bad guy or he's a good guy. I like a sort of a shuffling of different traits and characteristics in a character.
Complex, should we say?
Complex, yeah.
Which is what we are as humans.
Yeah.
Beyond Pirates, you've had some incredible TV roles. Downton Abbey, Turn, Washington Spies, Doctor Who. What stands out as particularly meaningful television experience for you?
Well, I wish you'd asked the question differently, because people say, this is the way I like to answer it. They say, what's your favorite job? And I say the next one. So that's, for me, all of them are enjoyable, really. There's no sort of standout. Well, the big standout thing for me was actually radio. It was being able to recreate the lost Tony Hancock episodes on the radio. That's been my favorite job ever. Try explaining that to an American. They think you've been in a film with Will Smith. But No, I'm always excited by the next thing that's going to occur. For instance, at the moment, some students got in touch with me and said, we're making this short film. We'd love to have you in it. We know you probably won't. And I thought, well, great, I'll do it. So I'm making that film next week, and then I'm going to make a film in France as a French film, my second French film. And then I'm going to spend the rest of the year trying to get a movie off the ground.
Your own?
My own, yeah. And then interestingly enough, tomorrow, a thing came through. I don't usually have to audition here in England, but everyone has to audition in America. But there's a new wonderful sort of magic, evil, sci-fi sort of horror series being made over there. And they want to see me for a leading role in that. And so I get as excited about, setting that up with my son, getting the camera ready and trying to get the lines together, as I did when I was 19. So, that excitement is still there, as will the disappointment be when they say no to me.
But it's really nice to have that excitement. And it's very easy to find yourself living a life where you don't have that excitement. So I think we're quite lucky as people if we do get. I still love coffee, for example.
Yeah, sure.
You would have thought maybe after 10 years of running a coffee shop, you'd be sick of it, and no.
No, I know exactly. I think if you find doing what you like doing, keep doing it. Yeah.
And I think I'm just grateful for that, because I see a lot of people don't have that.
Oh, absolutely. I do. If ever I'm feeling sorry for myself, or I'm doing a job that maybe doesn't work out quite as well, I'm walking home, I do look at somebody who plainly isn't enjoying what they're doing, and I'm thinking, right, stop whinging and carry on.
Yeah. Kind of pick yourself up moment.
Yeah.
Now, having worked extensively in the UK and the US, how do you compare British and American productions?
Exactly the same. So much, if you think about it, so many of the massive American films that I've seen over my life were made in England. We have great crews here, fantastic crews. There's no difference. Just as in television and film nowadays, there's really no difference. They're exactly the same medium. The only difference is in film, the cock-ups are bigger, the mistakes that are made are bigger. But it's the same experience universally. And I love that, because even in the early 80s, when I was doing some TV shows, I was getting and I talked about this. I did a little podcast yesterday, or not a podcast. I was doing interviews for a Blu-ray release of some Doctor Who's from the 80s that I was in. And even then, I used to get a little bit bored with that process of rehearsing for a week and then just recording the program for 3 hours on a Saturday night. I much prefer the idea that every day you perform and every day you work, and you've got editing rather than just shooting it all on 5 cameras all at once.
Would that also explain your enjoyment, should I call it, for stage and theatre?
Well, yes, because the difference with stage and theatre is that the performance is yours from the beginning of the show until the end. That was sort of true with the multi-camera, but I most enjoy the process of filmmaking now. I love it. In fact, I haven't been on stage for 7 years since I played King Lear at the Globe, as I mentioned earlier. But what I do really like is that I'm not only a supporter of the Chiswick Cinema, but also the Tabard Theatre.
Yeah.
And so I do a lot of stuff for them to help raise, particularly this year for their 40th anniversary. So I can go on stage and read something, so I still get that thrill of going in front of an audience. But it's not for 6 months, and I don't have to learn it, and I don't have to. You have to center your life around theatre. Nothing much you can do in the day. You end up at 10:30 all excited because you've done a performance. And then you try to go to bed all excited because you've done a performance, and then you can't really do anything the next day because you're just preparing for that next show.
You've balanced both comedy and drama throughout your career. Do you have a preference?
I think most things are a bit of both. I mean, I don't think there's pure comedy. That's more sort of slapstick or sketch comedy, or that's for comedians to do. And I don't believe in being a tragedian either. I've always found humor even in the most serious of characters. And I've also found serious moments in comedy characters. So I never look at it like, what is this, one or the other? I look at it and say, well, what am I here? What's the character doing here? And I think that's the best way.
And with regards to the acting experience, is there any difference between the acting experience in a massive blockbuster to a small intimate drama? Or
No, it's really all about learning what the lens is doing to you. It's very different in a long shot how you act. Just like on the stage, you've got your whole body. If you've got a close-up in a film, whether it's a blockbuster or a small film, you know that all you've got to tell the audience what's going on is your face, your features, the way you look. So waving your arms about doesn't help very much, A mid-shot is very different. But it's exactly the same set of rules despite the budget.
you mentioned earlier voice, you mentioned radio work, but I know you've done a lot of voice stuff, which from what I understand from a little research, also kind of took off during COVID, really. didn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
What drew you to voice work in the first place?
Well, what happened was, in the year 2000, I had done a bit of voice work, and I was sitting around in between a couple of jobs, and I thought, why do more people not want to use this magnificent, mellifluous voice of mine? So I thought I would make an effort to do more auditions and ask my agent, and I went out and I bought some professional equipment. Of course, then 8 months later, lockdown happened, and people for voiceovers and adverts and dubbing and things like that were all like, can anybody record from home? And this smug little hand went up. And so I started to do more. And even since COVID, the amount of times it's been useful for me to have that equipment at home and do work from home has been very good. I'm personally hoping that the business is going to go back to in-person meetings now, because I'm a little bit fed up of this remote stuff that goes on all the time.
Yeah. I've no idea what the future holds. I do know.
Well, World War III, I'm told.
Eventually, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I mean, will it be against ourselves, against aliens? Who knows?
Who knows? Yeah.
But yeah, we are quite distant now. I'm not gonna lie. Part of me kind of likes having access to remote stuff, purely because sometimes I just don't want to go into town, or I don't want to be in a meeting.
No, that's true. But look, in something like this, for instance, I can't stand doing these on Zoom.
Well, for me,
you're not really with the person who's talking to you, and I think it looks a bit boring.
Well, for me, being brutally honest, I don't think this would work if it were on Zoom.
No.
Why? Because, I'm quite new to the scene. A lot of people don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Most of the guests who we've had, who I've known personally, I'm now being introduced to people who I don't know personally, like yourself. And I think if this were through one screen to another, it just wouldn't work.
No. Well, I'm doing one tomorrow. Like that.
I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah,
here,
no.
I'm the inexperienced one here.
I agree with you, but I am not traveling to wherever they live.
So as you know, I do think that the remote world has its blessings, but also it is difficult because, I think life has changed. When people say, I've had, for example, a sales email or a sales call, can we book a meeting for, let's say, Wednesday at 11? And I'll say yes. And then I'll ask him, so, where's the address? And I'll go, no, we'll just send you a link.
Oh,
And,
right.
and sometimes I genuinely don't understand whether they want to meet in person or not. And I find that a bit confusing sometimes.
Well, talk about confusing. I mean, I got to grips with Zoom, but and this is very annoying. The amount of people who say, I want a link, but you've got to download this new link.
Yes.
And I see things like, can you just look? I'll just, if you like, I'll just FaceTime you, know. But I can't have my computer loaded with all these.
You got Teams, you've got Google.
Don't even start with the list. And the other thing about this now is that the amount of time I do this, I go, oh, I've got to answer that person about the Zoom thing they want to do. And I look at my phone and I go, how did they get in touch with me? Was it was it text? Was it mail? Did they do it on Instagram? Did they do it on Blue Sky? Did they do it on X? Did they do it on Facebook? Oh, I've got no idea. I'll have to wait till they say you're too late.
I'm sure some app developers somewhere must be able to develop an app where we just have an inbox for all of them. Just one inbox, and you reply without having to log in to each individual one.
Insane. It's just insane.
Voice work. Let me take you back to it.
Right.
How does the preparation for acting in voice work differ from stage or TV or film?
It's sort of like the distillation I was talking about the camera. Getting closer and closer. The thing about voice work is you don't have anything but your voice. So what you do physically is up to you. But so that's very important to realize that what you're doing, your emphasis and your shape of what you're doing is what's going to give the sense. I've learned a lot about this playing this regular character in this American cartoon series that I do called The Wing Feather Saga. And I'm playing an old pirate. So it's taught me a lot about how you show your energy with nothing other than your voice. So it's like the ultimate distillation of who you are as an actor, really.
It's almost as if like each different format it kind of peels away the layers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Until you're left with just one.
Gives you less and less to work with. So yeah. I enjoy that though. I think that's great.
I was going to say, do you have a favorite character you've voiced?
I'm very much enjoying this Wing Feather. I'm doing another episode of it in a few weeks because it's the first time I've done something so long term. This is the 4th series, and I think they're planning on doing 7 of them. So it's lovely to go back and I go, oh yes, it's Podo again. I'm going to do him, But the only thing I had to do was when they asked me to play an old pirate, I said, okay, but I'm going to play him American. Because I'm sure you don't want to be sued by Disney. So so I play an American pirate, which is nice.
Yeah, I've got my own stories about being threatened by Disney.
No, it's the same thing with music as well. Because I'm about to direct this play, for my first play. This lovely lady called Wendy Morgan, who's written a play about that's full of music, which other people are dealing with, trying to get the rights for, about the relationship between Stevie Nicks and Lindsay Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
Lovely piece. Doesn't need much direction from me. But the hoops going through trying to get the rights. And I also learned that, if you can do it, if it's not, nobody's being paid, it's the moment money starts changing hands that every greedy bugger wants to get their hands on it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you're not working, how do you like to spend your time? Do you have any hobbies or?
No, not really. What I usually spend most of my time doing is reading scripts.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I've got more involved with a lot of young creative people, a lot of people send me their ideas and their scripts, and I try to be as constructive as possible. So I've sort of accidentally worked it out that my entire life um, is spent working on other people's creativity and my own. Um, apart from that, a little bit of killer Sudoku every now and again goes down a treat.
Because something that struck me both when reading up on you, and you've mentioned this a few times here, is your, I don't know if passion's the right word, or belief or drive to help young actors and teaching. It seems like something very important to you, and I think that's
Yeah, I mean, it all started with it's a terrible thing, lockdown, but it gave me a lot of benefits. It gave me time to think about other things. I wouldn't have started directing if it wasn't for lockdown. I wouldn't have started working with young people, and it's really great. For instance, there was an assistant director on a TV show I did at the end of last year, and she had secretly been writing this movie. And she sent it to me and said, Abe, I'd like your opinion on it, which I gave her. And she said, would it be too cheeky to ask you to play the demented grandfather? And I said, no, I'd love to. I think it's a really funny role. So before all that, she wouldn't have come to me, and I probably wouldn't have responded. I said, well, good luck with it. So I find that wonderful.
So do you think the lockdowns kind of woke something up in you?
It woke up in me that I could just keep going on the way I was, or I could start thinking about some other areas to move into. And it's come at a very good time, because last year, between March and May of this year, I've done 6 TV jobs, and they have all been police procedurals. And I swear to God, if anybody else asks me where I was on the night of the 24th, I'm going to kill them. And this has happened because they are so popular in America. They call them cozy crime over there. And there's 2 TV shows, TV channels that show them. And I have found more and more recently, I'm over there flogging my Pirates of the Caribbean and my Doctor Who, my supernatural photographs. And loads of people come and say, have you got anything from Midsummer Murders? And I think, what? That's just insane. So I am glad that I'd made that move before this happened to television.
Yeah.
Because, and why I'm so excited about this audition I will do tomorrow, because it's for an American genre series, and that's the stuff I like doing.
Hollywood has often been criticized for sidelining older actors. What's your perspective on aging within the industry? And do you feel opportunities are changing?
It's a good question. I think Hollywood has been hard on stars aging. I am lucky enough not to be a star, but to be a character actor who works all the time. I can sort of go na to Hollywood, because Hollywood itself has now sort of died, I think, in many ways. Production, this TV series that I'm going up for tomorrow won't be shot in America. Nothing shot in California anymore. They're either shot in Atlanta, or they're shot in Toronto, or in Vancouver, or over in Europe. Bulgaria has a set which is New York, completely New York. You can film a film in New York, in Bulgaria at the moment.
What is it that's happening? I don't understand. What is it that's triggered this demise in Hollywood?
Well, one of them's a very bad reason, in that Hollywood was unionized, when I believe in unionization. And nobody over there wants to have to deal with unions. So that happened. I think it just got too expensive to film there. And it's really interesting that I'm going over to the Marbella Film Festival in a few weeks, because there's some people there trying to get a film industry in Marbella and the Canary Islands. And the governments are giving lots of money for this, big tax breaks, and it's happening all over Eastern Europe. In Luxembourg, apparently they have this. In Hungary, Budapest, for instance, I've shot about 3 TV shows there where it doubles for Paris.
Wow.
But they're able to offer the sort of breaks, financial breaks, that they can do, and this is why it's very important to me that I am a resident of the United States. I am British and I have an Irish passport, and it became very important, certainly after Brexit, that I didn't get tied up in a load of. And this is really the business side of acting. I didn't have to get tied up in endless getting visas to work and work anywhere.
That is a real blessing.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not an actor, and I would love to have that set up.
Yeah.
I would love to be able
great.
to pull out these passports.
Yeah.
At the very least, an English and a European.
At the very least, yeah.
That would be enough for me.
Yeah.
But I don't. We'll see. Things might change in the future.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Before I wrap up, do you have any upcoming projects you want to share? You want to tell people about? Anything you want to?
I have just released my latest short film. It's called Wellbeing. You can see a clip of it on either Instagram or Facebook. We are having a little showing of it around at the Chiswick Cinema, but just for the cast and crew. The woman who produced it, Rachel Warren. It was really interesting. I went over to Tenerife to make this bizarre Ukrainian horror, a gangster film, and Rachel was playing my girlfriend, and in an off moment while they were setting a camera up, she said, "Oh, I'm producing a short film. It's sort of sci-fi AI." I said, "Oh, my favorite genre." She said, "I can't find a director." I said, "I'm a director." And within 3 weeks, we were making the film together. So those sort of things that happen are nice.
Fantastic.
But she's really serious about it, and we're entering it into the festival circuit now. And I'm hoping it'll be really good. It's called Wellbeing. Have a little look at the clip on Facebook or Instagram.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel.